Black Angel is a game that's set in space. Boom, 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 boom. It's about saving the entire human race. Today's game is Black Angel by Pearl Games. Hi and welcome back to Not Board Gaming. I'm your host, I'm Mark. Now, today's game has been a little bit divisive in the board gaming community. When it was first announced, people got really very excited about it. And then they had access to it before Gen Con and around Gen Con, and it's had a little bit of a split. There are people out there that absolutely love Black Angel, and there are others that are just very much disappointed. I think Rado is certainly it's really up there for Game of the Year on his list. So, for me personally, obviously I was excited when I knew it was coming out. It's got the evocative artwork by Peter O'Toole on the game itself and certainly on the box. And I thought, yeah, that could be a game I'm interested in. Now, I know a lot of my reviews so far seem to be space-themed games, and I promise you that's purely coincidental. I do have a lot of non-space themed games. However, I was looking for kind of a crunchy worker placement type game, and I Black Angel was high up on my list. And then I saw some respected reviewers and heard from respected reviewers, and yeah, it's kind of down the middle. There are people out there that really like the game, and so for some people it's their kind of #1 game of the year, and for other people it's an absolute disappointment. Apparently, and I've not played Troy or Trois, it's very similar to Trois, but I've not played that. But it did spark enough of an interest in me. However, I hovered my finger over the buy button so many times, and then just something stopped me at the last minute from actually purchasing it. But then the other day I was searching through the Zatu, that's Z-A-T-U, Games website, which is a UK online games retailer, and they have an outlet section, and I always check in the outlet section just to see if there's anything there. And lo and behold, there was Black Angel for £38. Now, at £38, I thought, right, okay, I've got to give this a go. And it was in the outlet section because the box is damaged. And let me show you. On the box itself, we've got this dinked corner here, and then there's this bit here where something's bashed into the box. But at 38 quid, I thought I can take a slightly battered box with that, and it's going to be worth a punt. So, of course, I pressed buy, and it arrived a few days ago. And I have played this about half a dozen times in the last couple of days. So I thought, right, with that amount of playtime behind me, it's probably time to do a review of Black Angel. So, without further ado, what we'll do is we'll move on to the review itself. We'll talk about the box and the contents, and then talk about the gameplay. And let's see at the end of this review whether I'm in the kind of love camp, or whether it really is a game that I may not keep around for too much longer. Of course, this being Not Board Gaming, this is going to be a solo review of the game. So, let's have a look at the box itself. So, the box itself, I think, is a work of beauty. It's got this really kind of psychedelic looking background on there as the Black Angel, the ship, is flying through space with one of its little robot workers on their ship. You've got a planet here, and it looks beautiful. And I know it's been a little bit divisive, and certainly the contents, as we move on to the contents and have a look inside the box in a little bit, the artwork on there it's kind of split the community as well. The artwork is of course by Ian O'Toole, and I think it's just absolutely lovely. It's not a massive box; it's a decent sized box, but I do think it's kind of a talking point. It's a good showpiece game to get out there. Now, as we look at the back, you can see there, it tells you a little bit about the game. So it says, humanity, through its irresponsible behaviour, has rendered Earth uninhabitable. Faced by the urgency of the situation, the great nations are forced to share their knowledge in order to create the most vast spacecraft ever constructed, the Black Angel. Its mission? Transport the genetic heritage of humanity to a new home planet. And here we can see on the back it says for 1 to 4 players, so obviously it's good, it got solo mode, ages 12 plus, and about 60 to 120 minutes. Nah, I'd say that is fine for the solo game. I'd say the age 12 plus is maybe just a little bit too crunchy. And as you can see on the back, there's a suggested layout and it shows you some of the contents in there. And yeah, the artwork pops for itself on there. You can absolutely see that it's, for me, I think it's beautiful. It reminds me and evokes some of those psychedelic space travel movies of the 60s and 70s. And I think it's a bold and genius stroke to carry out the artwork like that. So it's by by Pearl Games, sorry, and it's by Sébastien Dujardin, Javier Georges, and Alain Aubin. I do hope I've got those names right. And the artwork, as I mentioned earlier, is by Ian O'Toole. So for me, I really like the box. I think it's a beautiful showpiece box, but the box isn't everything. The artwork isn't everything. Obviously, we're going to move on to the components, and we're also going to look at the gameplay itself. So let's have a look at what you get inside the box. Okay, so let's lift off the lid and see what's inside Black Angel by Pearl Games, not Black Pearl. So first of all, we've got the rulebook. Now, some people like the rulebook, some people really don't like the rulebook. Apparently some of the rules are slightly misrepresented, there may be a couple of wrong pictures in there. Some people didn't find it easy to follow, and some people have said it's pretty good, and I think I'm going to have to read through it a couple of times, watch some videos, and also refer to the forums on BGG to find out how to play it. But that looks pretty good. It's a good night's reading for me there. Then we have an appendix as well, which tells you about the mission cards that are in there, and the Ravager cards, and technology tiles, and advanced technology tiles. And then we got some kind of player aids as well. There are 4 player aids, which give you the turn sequence and the actions. Look at the colour really popping out on there. So here is the board for the Black Angel itself. And I think that's the wrong way around. There we go. And again, these colours look absolutely fantastic. I think that really kind of gives an impression that you've got an exciting game here. I really like what Ian O'Toole's done with this artwork on this. And on the back of it is just a picture of maybe the spaceship. Yeah, it looks like the front of the Black Angel and some of the side wings there. So then, it's a game that's got cardboard, so of course there's plenty of punch pieces on here, and they look some double-sided. That came out nice and easy. And these are going to be player boards and the various tiles that you use as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we move on to the this is the tiles where the Black Angel kind of progresses throughout space. And if you've seen pictures of the game, you'll see this works separately to the main board and to the player board. You put your Black Angel on here, and these tiles give a kind of the impression of progressing through space. And I think that is the planet that you're looking to aim eventually to reach, which is space. Okay, and there we go, some more of these progressive tiles. Right, what else? Wow, well, first of all, as we look in the box, you can see that inside each of these trays there's some rather nice artwork in there. That's a nice little touch. I like that idea. And then we have a couple of packs of cards. I don't know how they work just yet, so let's see if we can just unwrap one of these. There we go. And these are like the Ravager cards. Let's see. Yeah, it's got some iconography on there, and then some yellow cards, whatever they are for. And again, various iconographies. So I can only imagine that pack is going to be very similar. A big bag of dice. And these are bespoke dice to Black Angel. Let's have a look. So there you can see they are etched dice, with the recesses with the print on there. So obviously it won't rub off, hopefully. Yeah, and yeah, weighty enough, that's okay. A number of tiny glass beads, some little counters, and some red cubes. It feels like every game that I get has got an element of red cubes in there, so I know if I run short I can go to something like Nemesis to get some more red cubes, or maybe even use some of the cubes from Terraforming Mars. More baggies, and again, most games that you get these days come with a selection of baggies in there. And how environmentally friendly that is, we don't know. And what's in this? And look at this artwork. It is great what you get inside the box, and that little bit of detail does absolutely make a difference. So here are the little worker robots. I think you send them out to do various tasks throughout the game itself. They come in 4 colours. Yep. And we also have, this will be the stand for the Black Angel. There we go. We've got some, I think these are the little things that the worker robots go in. So you would get one of those, and you would get one of your worker robots, and you would place it in there, thus, and then it would go out and it would carry out its missions. And as you can see there, the worker robot has got a kind of cute little look to it. It's got little eyes on there. Yes, nice little touch to that. So that's those, and then we have the ship, the Black Angel. Yeah, and this is the piece that goes on these tiles, and it shows you your progression throughout the game. So of course this will go in there one way or another, and that will give you your Black Angel as it moves across the board as you play the game. Okay, so I don't think, in terms of the amount of content that's there, there's not masses of pieces to keep track of, so that's good. Sometimes you get games that have like way too many pieces and you're keeping track of a lot of them, and a good selection of dice there. Obviously, the artwork is absolutely stunning and beautiful, as you would expect from Tools artwork. And I know it's been slightly divisive. The colours on it are slightly divisive for a lot of people, but I'm liking the look of this. And when I've seen it laid out on tables, on videos and in reviews, etc., I think it kind of really evokes something different and something kind of unique in terms of a crunchy game. So, in Black Angel by Pearl Games, what you're going to be is you're going to be playing the part of an AI on the ship Black Angel as it traverses the universe and spans the universe, looking for a planet on which to carry humanity's genetic heritage. Because what's happened is, the Earth has degraded to such a position, be that global warming, be that Brexit, be that Donald Trump, who knows? But we can't survive on the planet anymore. So they've bundled up all our genetic heritage, put it on this spaceship, but they haven't trusted people to actually man this ship because the journey's going to take thousands of years. So there are a number of AI on the ship, and you're going to play one of these AI, and what you're looking to do is actually make the most progress throughout the journey as you travel towards the planet, so that when you get to that planet, your AI, the AI that's completed the most tasks and got the most victory points, will be the AI that actually gets given the honour of kind of installing our genetic heritage on this planet. Now, the planet that you're travelling to as you travel through space is a planet called Spes. And how do you get to Spes? That's S-P-E-S. What you do is you travel through space on the spaceboard, moving spaces on your spaceboard until you get to Spes. So there are spaces here in space. As you move space, and the spaces on your spaceboard will move up and down, and you'll get to Spes. Spes? Really? That's the best they could come up with? I mean, it's a pretty ridiculous name for a planet, and it could have been called anything. I know it's caused a lot of kind of people in the industry to throw some shade at this game. The fact that you're travelling through space on a spaceboard to the planet Spes just feels a little bit crazy. But you know what? It doesn't really matter. It's just part of the theme of the game, and the theme is it's okay. It kind of gives you a reason for being there. It's not the most thematic game that's out there. But let's have a look at how we actually kind of set the game up, and then how we move through space to get to Spes. Essentially, Black Angel is a dice drafting, worker placement, hand management game. It really does throw almost every board game trope at the game. It is played over 3 boards. That's right, you heard me. 3 boards. The first board is the Black Angel board, and this represents the ship, and around it you have your victory points, and you've also got, this is where the robots are going to be into the break area. It's where you draft your dice to complete certain actions, and it's also where the Ravagers will come and try and kind of prevent you completing actions. Then you have your player board, and this is where you'll inject your technology tiles that will help you out throughout the game, and you'll also store resources like the resource token, like the damage token, and the ship token as well. And then we have the space board. So this is where the Black Angel goes, and it's always on the middle tile. And this represents progressing through space. And what would happen is every time the Black Angel moves up, and there's certain actions that we'll come on to later that cause that to happen, you take the bottom tile, you flip it round, you put it there, and you move it down, so the Black Angel always stays in the middle, and that gives you the element of, or the feeling that you're travelling through space. In reality, the solo player game sets up more or less exactly the same as a two-player multiplayer game. You're going to remove a number of Ravager cards from the deck. It tells you how many dice you need to put there, and the only difference that you've got is this solo Ultima deck, if you like, the AI deck. And this controls the AI's movements, or HAL's movement, as the AI is known, your competing AI is known. This controls his movements and also how many victory points HAL is going to score throughout the game. So the game takes about 5 minutes to set up, if that. And for a relatively crunchy game, I was very happy with that. It is a breeze to set up. So let's have a look at how the game plays. So Black Angel is essentially a turn-based game. What's going to happen is you're going to go first once you're set up as the solo player, and HAL, the AI, is going to go second. And when you go, you carry out one of two sequences, sequence A or sequence B. And we'll come to sequence B in a little bit because that's the one that actually progresses the space board. But the main one you're going to be choosing is sequence A. And you're going to do that by using your dice. So what you will do is in each of these rooms here, you see there are 3 rooms where you have a worker. That means each worker that you have in those rooms, you can draw 1 die of that colour from the general supply. So there we go. I've got 3 workers. That means I get 1 die of each. And I'm going to roll these dice, and that's going to give me my actions or my available pips to use on my go on this turn. So if I'm going to choose sequence A, what's going to happen is I'm going to perform one of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tasks, because there are 2 tasks per die. However, 1 task is similar on each one, and that's about commanding your ship. There are 3 unique tasks, 1 per die, that you can carry out on sequence A. Before you get to using your dice though on sequence A, what's going to happen is you're going to use these mission cards which you've been handed to activate these technology tiles within your player board. And for every colour that you put down, you can use 1 per go, you activate the tiles on that row or that column of the same colour. So that will activate all the tiles of the same colour there if you use that. However, you can also use a Ravager card, and what that will do is that will activate all standard technology tiles on that row or that column. The only ones it won't activate are these very useful advanced technology tiles, and they're great, but you really need them for end of game scoring, but it's never too early to start with them. The first task you can do is use my yellow die to take some technology tiles, and here are your technology tiles, and what these are little bonuses, and you're going to, when you buy a technology tile, you're going to put it on your player board, and it allows you to activate them as the turn goes on. So that's okay. So with this, say I've got 3 pips there, that means I can take either anything that's got 1 or 2 pips or 1 pip. These are advanced technology tiles, and they're for end game scoring. They are very useful, and these are ones that you can activate throughout the game. So say I took an advanced technology tile and this one, there we go. I can then inject them onto my board to add some end game scoring. So the advanced technology tiles going this way up there or this way that way, so let's put that there, and then the green tiles can go in wherever there's a coloured arrow there. Suddenly I've got more actionable goes on my card. So what are these technology tiles? Well, as your spaceship, as the Black Angel's been travelling through space for thousands of years, it's come across various alien civilizations and it's taken some of their technology. And you then are allowed to get these technology tiles and then activate them. That will allow you access to some of the ongoing technologies, and they give little boosts throughout the game if you activate them correctly. For example, that one allows you to pick 2 mission cards of any colour and discard 1, so you can choose your mission. That one allows you to either get a ship for your little robot or move one up to 2 spaces, and that one gives you either a resource cube or a resource token, or a damage cube or debris cube, which can come in really useful. So there is a bit of strategy there in kind of activating the right ones. It allows you a little bit of a boon and allows you maybe to take that advantage against HAL, the AI. But that's just the start of sequence A. Because as I mentioned, dice drafting is a big part of this game, and you have your dice that you've taken from the supply when you provided where your workers are, and what you will use these dice for is activating actions on each of the coloured workstations. Now there is a common action on each workstation, so each workstation has 2 actions, and one of those actions is a common action, and that is commanding your ship. The other one is a bespoke action. For example, one of the actions, you can use it to buy technology tiles from this sidebar here. On another action, it allows you to clear debris cubes, which you can then use cleverly to activate your technology tiles. On a third action, what it will allow you to do is clear the Ravager cards that are plaguing the ship. And for every one of those that you hold in your hand, you can use them to obviously activate on your player board, or it may come in useful for end of game scoring as well. But then, of course, as I mentioned, there's the final action on sequence A that is a common action, and that is commanding your ships. Because these tiny little robots that each player gets they don't only dictate what dice you can have, but you also use them to move around the space area around the Black Angel. Now, if anybody's watched Red Dwarf, you'll remember the scutters from there, be it Marge and Bob or Pinky and Perky, and these were the tiny robots that would go around and do all the donkey work while Rimmer and Lister and Cat were off doing whatever it was that they were doing. And the same is essentially true of the robots in Black Angel. What you're going to do is when you command your ship, you can launch these tiny robots. So not only do you get a robot, you can get a tiny little ship. There we go, and it fits in there very, very nicely, and you can launch them to move out onto the space map. But why would we do that? Well, you see, when you're moving your robots around the space map, if you use the right colour die and you land on the same colour of the die of the tile that's on there, so say I've got a green one here, I've used a green die, I can then play a green mission card onto this space. And that mission card opens up a wealth of possibilities. Because the mission cards, as well as coming in the various colours of yellow, blue and green, also come in different flavours. And there are 2 flavours to have. The first one is this, and this mission with the 3 red arrows is not triggered straight away. You may get to trigger some victory points, and they're great. So as soon as you lay a mission card down on there, you claim that card as your own, and you'll get whatever's underneath there. In that case, it's 2 victory points, so fantastic. I move on to. But any of these actions here aren't actually triggered until this falls off the board. The second type of mission card is this kind of mission card. It's not got 2 arrows on there, and again, you get to claim what's under there. So that's 2 victory points. So fantastic. Thank you very much. But I can also put a little worker robot on there, and every time I get an activation die of the same colour and I have spare activation, I can use that activation to claim a robot or a ship there. So that's fantastic. That allows you to actually grow your resources throughout the game on an instant basis if you have the activations, or when it drops off the board, and we'll come to how the board moves forward in a bit. So that's sequence A. But when you run out of dice that you can use in sequence A, you have to use sequence B. And what sequence B does is it allows you to choose new dice. So you would choose a dice for each of the workers that you've got in the workstations, and you'd roll those, and they would go into your pot there. But it also allows you to reset your board as well. So you'll have activated various technology tiles around your board, so you can discard those cards. And what it also allows you to do is then move on to the space board, where you're going to move it forward 1 space. I think it's fair to say that the space board and the artwork on the space board has been one of the most controversial aspects of the game. It is a third part to the game, and it does have this, as I like it, this kind of weirdly wonderful psychedelic kind of artwork on there. However, the spaceboard is there to provide the feeling of progression towards spec. So what you will do is when you move the spaceboard forward at the end of sequence B, you're going to take this bottom tile, you're going to flip it round, and you're going to move it to the top, and you're going to move the Black Angel ship onto the middle space. So you're moving forward. Spec is kind of dictated by 2 things. First of all, you get this small spec marker, and that starts on the top tile when you start the game. Progressively, as they go down, as you move forward, this will go down, it will drop off the end of the board, and when it does, spec itself goes on to the top tile of the board, and that means that you're close to it. So you're only going to need a couple more tiles moving forward, as you can see, to get towards spec itself. There we go. My very next turn is going to get me onto Spec. I mentioned earlier there are two types of mission cards, and there are. The one that gets activated when the tile that it's on drops off the end of the board is the one with the little arrows on it. And what it is, you have two types of bonus on there. You have the one on the left and the one on the right. If you own the card, so if you've got one of your little robots on the marker there, you get the bonus on the left hand side, and if you have a ship on there, you get the bonus on the right hand side. However, it's totally possible that the card is owned by Hal, the AI, and you've got a ship on there, so he would get whatever victory points comes from getting that bonus, and you would get still the bonus on the right hand side from there. However, there is also the other type of card which doesn't have the three arrows, and you can have that, and you may have a ship on there as well with a robot on it. That does nothing at the end of it. When that falls off the end of the board, that's it. These robots go into the supply, that mission card goes away, and that tile goes to the top, flips round, and the ship moves on to Spec, triggering one of the end game conditions. There is a further end game condition, and that is if you've absolutely exhausted the deck of Ravager cards. And when you place a mission card on the Spec board, you look around, and any adjacent tiles that have a Ravager marker on there, which looks like that, you pick out the relevant card, a card for that, and you place it on your board wherever that should be. So that goes on number 4. There, and we're going to place a damage cube just there. And as you can see, if I'd have placed this particular card here, I'd have to pull out 2 Ravager cards, and that one would go on number 1 over there, and I would place another damage cube on there. If you've exhausted this deck of Ravager cards, then that is the second end gaming condition. There are only 2, and what happens there is you would finish that round, play another round, but you wouldn't move on the end tile of the Spec board at all, and that's it. You would then tot up your victory points. That's okay, that's fine. That's just my go. Working against you is Hal, the ship's dastardly AI. Every time you've finished your turn, it's Hal's go. Now, Hal is the AI on the ship. He doesn't get a player board, he doesn't have Ravager cards or resources, but what he is Hal is a bit of a thief. You see, every time Hal goes, you're going to draw one of his deck of AI cards, and on the back of the AI card it tells you the point scoring mechanism. Then on the other side there are 2 options for Hal to choose. If you've chosen sequence A, he will use that one. If your last go was sequence B, he will use that one. Also, if he can't do sequence A, he will do that one. If he can't do any of them, the bugger's just going to get 3 victory points. Man, this guy's a thief. Because on Hal's go, when he draws these cards, they allow him a number of actions, and each of these actions almost always ends up with him having some form of victory card. So maybe he's launched a mission, as it would be the case on A there. Some of those missions allow him to get points straight away, but also what it will do is if he's not points straight away, when that drops off the ship, each mission card that drops off the ship, he gets 3 points for. But as you can see, on the back of the card where the scoring mechanism is, if he generates ships, he gets a victory point, resource cubes, a victory point, robots, a victory point, technology tiles, 2 victory points, cubes, 2 victory points, Ravager cards, 2 victory points, and an advanced technology tile, 4 victory points. This guy starts running away from the beginning. A particularly sneaky way that Hal works against you is if he gets a card, an action with this symbol here. That means he uses one of his dice, which is fine. If he's got dice in there, he will use them. If you've got dice of the same colour and your die has more pips on there, he's going to steal your die. And do you know what you're going to get for that? You're going to get a resource cube for that. Thank you very much, Hal. He's going to get your dice, the one that you may have been planning on making your very next turn with. He's going to get your dice with maybe 3 pips on there, and he's going to give you 1 measly resource token. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but in reality, what it can do is it can really kind of interfere with your ability to strategize long term. And whilst it's not a totally intuitive deck, an AI deck, because of course it's a number of cards, a bit like in Scythe, and the actions that are coming out are relatively random, what they are is designed to actually interfere with your long-term strategy, your goals on achieving the most victory points and getting to Spec and beating Hal by stealing your resources, taking the tiles that you want, and being able to place missions in places that you may have wanted to place missions. It's not all bad though with Hal, because some of the cards actually help you. So for example, on this card. There are 2 actions on this card, and if you chose either one of those, they are a particular help. Although they give him victory points, they do clear some items on the board. So the first icon up here means that it clears damage cubes equal to the amount of pips that he's got on a grey dice there. So of course, those damage cubes, they can damage what they can affect how you're playing the game itself. So if those are removed, that can help you in the long run. But he's going to get 2 victory points for each damage cube he removes. And also, he can clear Ravager cards, and these Ravager cards kind of prevent you carrying out what you're trying to do. They ask you to do a negative action when you're trying to complete an action on the Black Angel board. So of course, he can clear on green dice, with how many pips on that green dice, as many Ravager cards as he can. But for each Ravager card that he clears, he gets 2 victory points. So again, he helps you, but he also gets paid for helping you at the same time. Whereas if you're clearing these Ravager cards, unless it comes to endgame scoring, chances are you're not going to get any victory points for them. And that's it. So in the solo game, you're going to spend your rounds playing either sequence A or sequence B. If you play sequence A, you're going to manage your resources, you're going to draft your dice, you're going to place your technology tiles, activate your technology tiles, remove the Ravager cards, remove the damage cubes. And Hal, on his turn, is going to play out sequence A or sequence B, where he's going to do everything and probably get loads of victory points by the end of it. At the end of every sequence B, you're going to move the spaceboard forward 1, and eventually you're either going to reach space or you're going to deplete the Ravager deck, and that triggers the endgame condition there. But as you can see, that Hal has got a real way of storming ahead with all his victory points, and you're left lurching some kind of 20-30 points behind. It doesn't seem fair. It seems like an unwinnable game at that point, but that's really where the endgame scoring comes into its own. An advantage for you as the human player at the end of the game is that you get to add additional victory points, which Hal doesn't get to do. So for every 2 resources of either resource tokens or damage cubes that you have left at the end of the game, you get an additional victory point. And you will also get victory points for these black advanced technology tiles. So in the game, if they're not being ejected and they're not over here, then you will get a maximum of 4 points for every for every advanced technology tile that you've got. So here we go, every cube here will earn me 2 victory points. I can do a maximum of 4 with that, and that's fine. There we go, that's 4 extra victory points there. And also, when they've been ejected, you get to put them in this section here, and that means that you can get a maximum of 4 victory points. So there we go, this is 2 victory points for every grey technology tile I've got on there, so that's a total of 4. But I also get to add 2 victory points for every card I've tucked underneath it as well that's fallen off the mission board. So there is a real way of absolutely catching up with Hal, and this strategy, this early game strategy that you can employ to try and get these advanced technology tiles out and think about endgame scoring throughout, really kind of engages you in this race for the win, if you like, at the end of the game. It means it doesn't become a biased and unfair game. So as a solo game, it really is kind of a crunchy game. There's lots going on here, there's lots to think about, and you have a seemingly intelligent AI that you're fighting against in the form of Hal's AI deck. You know, you're going around, you're managing your resources, you're managing your technology tiles, you're managing your cards, you're placing mission cards out there, you're wondering what dice to draft and what to play in the best order to absolutely maximize your scoring strategy, all the time keeping Hal in your kind of view as you're trying to hone in on him and trying to close that gap between the massive amount of victory points that he's got and the amount of victory points that you have. And it all plays mechanically very, very well. And that could be a bit of an issue because, you know, a lot of people have talked about the artwork, and we'll come on to that in a little bit, and the theme being seemingly detached from it. And you know what? I kind of get where people are coming from. Mechanically, the game works very well. After a couple of games, you've really got it down pat. You understand the nuances of what you're trying to do. But it can start to feel just that. It can really start to feel like a mechanical process that you're doing rather than playing a game. The theme, you know, you're in this spaceship, you're working towards space, and everything links in with that theme. But it's not immersive in any way, shape or form. It almost becomes an Excel sheet exercise in finding out where to place things next, in just going through the motions a little bit, and the lack of a kind of intrinsic link between what you're playing the theme of the game itself starts to infiltrate and starts to drive a wedge into the enjoyment that you could have on the game. You see, I get it, there are a lot of moving parts in this game, and it has to have some really solid mechanisms for those parts not only to work individually, but to work together as well. You know, everything has to be there to make sure that no action feels isolated and on its own, and that you are sacrificing maybe on one turn one action for the sake of performing a maybe better action on the subsequent turn. But when you have a look at the artwork and what Ian O'Toole's devised for this, and you look at the 3 player boards and the amount of colour that's on here, some real thought has gone into, you know, how this game is going to take place. It's just a shame that that link couldn't be deeper. I really like an immersive game. I like a game where I feel like I'm part of the story. And sometimes here you just feel like you're fulfilling a purpose. It just feels like you're going through some motions to get that output of 2 more, 3 more victory points, and you don't feel like you're actually necessarily playing the game all the time. It's just that you are part of a machine, a cog in a machine. And I say with the artwork, it feels like it could have found some greater link to make it feel more personal. But that in itself is not the biggest issue with the game. It goes without saying that if you're getting into a big crunchy game like Black Angel, and you go in there with a full knowledge that it's quite a mechanically complex game in terms of the amount of various moves that you can make, then there's going to be a significant amount of rulebook reading that you're going to have to do. And by crikey, they'd better make that rulebook good to get you into that game, to really make sure that the time you're investing in this game is worthwhile. And for me, and for quite a few other people, this rulebook is a nightmare. I mean, I know English obviously may not be the first language of the developers of the game, and that's okay, you know, that happens in quite a few rulebooks, and you can get over that, but there is no real flow to this rulebook. It tells you the component structure and how to set the board up, and that's great. And then when you get into the game, into the mechanics of the game, it tells you how the mechanics work, but it doesn't tell you how they work in the flow of the game. It becomes this melange of colour and text and flipping backwards and forwards, and you really start to struggle to find out where rules are. It took me maybe 4 games to not use the rulebook at all, and when I was referring back to the rulebook, I was lost. I was constantly flicking through trying to find things that appeared in the rulebook. Now, obviously the BGG forums are a great place for that, and then I found on YouTube a how to play, or 2 how to play videos on the Game in a Nutshell YouTube channel. I heartily recommend that you read the rulebook, get frustrated at it, and then you watch the Game in a Nutshell videos, first for how the game works itself, and then secondly for the solo play, because what that video does is that breaks down the mechanics of how you play this game so much better. But this rulebook, which doesn't have any form of indexing there as well, so if you are lost in a rule, you're constantly flicking back and forward with a vague idea of where it might be, but finding it can be a whole other thing, and the structure of it and the wording of it sometimes is really, really difficult. Also, it leaves some rules open to interpretation. Now, in the past I've said, you know, if rules are open to interpretation, you house rule them. That's not the end of the world. You know, as long as you're having fun, that can be good. But you do find that maybe if you're house ruling the wrong thing, it can be a little bit game breaking as well. My first game, it was maybe nearly 2 hours long, my first game, as I was constantly referring back to the rule book. By the time I'm on my 6th, maybe 7th game now, I can easily set it up and play it and finish it within about 60 minutes without referring to this. You do get these player aids, which are fine. They explain the sequences to you, and they also explain how some of the actions work, but they also kind of only explain about 2/3 of everything there. So if you're still unsure, you're going to have to go back into that rule book or onto the BGG forums or back onto YouTube to find out what rules are kind of relevant for you. That's a real kicker for me. It's a real kicker, because this game has a lot going for it. But I wanted to get into it better and easier than what I did. Now, as I say, I've never played Twat, and if you played Twat, it may well make total sense to you. But, you know, for those of you who are new to this style of game, and certainly new to Twat or Black Angel, then it's going to feel very alien. No pun intended there. And I just wish that the rules in the rule book were more comprehensive, were more structured and more laid out in a better way. It spoilt my introduction to the game, and then on that I think it sent me onto this kind of not spiral, but also onto a path where, because of that, and I was thinking about the mechanics of that, I couldn't get immersed in the game, and that became that could become an issue for some people. And I think that kind of sums up Black Angel in the fact that it's really going to work for some people, and for other people it's not going to work. I know that when the game was kind of previewed and when we knew it was coming out, everybody was really excited, not only by the tool artwork, but by the fact it got this Twa heritage. And then the game came out, and some really respected YouTubers and podcasters that I listen to didn't like it. And they have various reasons, and I agree with each of those reasons they don't like for having that they have for not liking the game. There are also some people I really respect on YouTube and on the podcast absolutely love it, and for some people, as I mentioned, it's their game of the year. And that is, for me, that's a really interesting thing to have. Is the fact that you've got this game of wonderful colour and all these mechanisms, and it's not going to be for everybody. As I mentioned earlier, I really like to get immersed in games. If I'm playing a game like Too Many Bones or Nemesis, I feel part of that world. I feel like, in Too Many Bones, I'm running down the riverbank, or I'm fighting these bad guys, or in Nemesis, I feel like I'm running through those spaceship corridors and hiding from the intruders. And I don't get that with this game at all. And therefore, I shouldn't like it. But I really, really like this game. There's just something about this game that keeps me coming back for more. When I finished it, it's take an hour, set it up, play a game, put it back. I'm already thinking about what strategies I can use differently next time, how I can improve my strategies. I say I'm kind of 6 games in at the moment. I'm on a 50-50 win ratio, and I'm already kind of improving my strategies as I go along. There's just something about the game, that the artwork, the way that the 3 boards meld together, the way that everything kind of makes sense, not necessarily thematically, but still makes sense in terms of what you're trying to achieve. I do like the fact that I'm racing against Hal and his victory points, and I do like the fact that my endgame scoring actually matters in this as well. I think the AI deck works very, very well. It maybe shouldn't. It's just a few cards and some random actions, but it absolutely works. There's a lot of thought gone into that solo game, and that's what I really like about this. Is there is a really good, solid solo experience in this box. I can't speak for the multiplayer. I can't, I've not played multiplayer, and chances are I probably will only play it a few times with more than just myself, so I can't really speak for that. And maybe that's the issue that some people have, because I can understand that this will generate quite a bit of analysis paralysis as people kind of really kind of trying to get their head around about the best move to make next. But you know what? I'm going to push that multiplayer to one side, because I play solo, and for me, I really enjoy the experience I get out of this game. I'm so glad that I took the plunge on this game. I can understand every criticism raised at it, but I can also say that I don't care. I love it. I think it's a fantastic, fantastic game. So there we go. That was Not Board Gaming's review of Black Angel, and against all odds, I absolutely love this game. As I mentioned, I can completely understand the people who don't like it and where they're coming from, and the inevitable comparisons to Twa. But for me, there's just something about the game that works for me, and it should not work for my type of game. From the moment I saw the game with the artwork, I knew that there was potentially something really good in here, and when I saw the components, I was absolutely kind of blown away by the look of everything. That's not everything, of course. When I started playing the game, once I got past that tricky first game with that horrible rule book, things really started to fall into place. Now, kind of 6 games later, I'm in love with Black Angel. I can't see this not regularly getting to my table. It's something that I think if I've got an hour or so to spare, I'm going to throw it on the table. I'm going to play a game of it. I'm going to thoroughly enjoy it because as a solo experience, it absolutely works. I think for a crunchy solo game, it's one of the best that I've played. And you know, I know Derek Rodriguez from the Solo BG podcast wants to know my views on it. And Derek, I think you're really going to like this game. So what I would say, my friend, is go out to a board game store or buy it online and get yourself a copy as soon as possible, because I would really be interested in your thoughts. And by the way, if you're not subscribed to Derek's Solo BG podcast, then please subscribe. It's one of my favourite solo board gaming podcasts. So yeah, Black Angel by Pearl Games. It's very much a recommendation from me. Okay, so thank you very much once again for joining Not Board Gaming. I've been Mark, I'm your host. Please remember you can subscribe to the channel, and also remember to follow us on Facebook. That's Not Board Gaming, always BORED, and also on Instagram as well. Of course, there are more reviews on our channel and more coming up as well. You know, it's going to be a pretty hectic few months in terms of incoming Kickstarters. I think I've got Cloudspire arriving soon. I've got Street Masters Aftershock arriving soon. I've got Deep Madness arriving soon. I've got Coloma arriving soon. And then as we get towards the back end of the year and early part of next year, there's of course Splice and Dice as well from the guys at Chip Theory Games. So got some really good content coming for you in the coming months, and also some of my existing games that I'm going to be having a look at as well. So once again, thank you very much for joining me at Not Board Gaming. Remember, you can like and subscribe to the channel, and you can also check out some of our other reviews as well. So remember, if you can't find anybody else to play with, there's nothing wrong with playing with yourself.